Welcome, everybody. It's a bullet brawl. Come one, come all. It's that kind of day. International Master Danny Rensch. I just tweeted. That sounds like something weird, right? I just tweeted. No, I'm kidding. I just tweeted that today would be the kind of day where we're taking on all comers. And just like that, first person to challenge me, Mr. Bebelak. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. Let's just hope I did, for the record. And we have a strange, unorthodox type of position. One that was sort of a Tory kind of gone weird, and I'm hoping to keep it weird for my opponent, bringing pressure right now to the kingside, take advantage of the pin. On this particular type of bullet brawl, my idea is going to be to play the game and then hopefully provide a little bit of instruction afterwards as far as what happens. So, offering the chance for a lot of players who always want to have some time and maybe get a chance to play their own game in a bullet brawl, offering them a chance to play, and then also hopefully providing a little bit of instruction as far as how the game went. Though right now it looks like I may be losing this one, so maybe the instruction will be coming to me. At least it seems like that's certainly a possibility. Not super happy, despite the bishop pair, which feels really good. I don't have a lot of other things going for me in this position, so I have to be very careful. And, well, let's hope that that works out, although probably I should have just taken with the... the queen instead of what I just did. But it is too late now, and now I am down a piece. So that's not fun. Sure is not fun. And I'm going to be down even more, it looks like. And let's hope that we can either pull out something magical and figure out where I went wrong, or what else? Not so sure what else will be possible here. Oops, that wasn't a good idea. Well, just pre-moving right now. Hoping against hope that I may win on time. Well, sometimes you beat lower-rated players and you absolutely did not deserve to win. In that case, just showing my bullet savvy in today's bullet brawl. But what started out here was a strange Tory. I played c5 early, and then this was all fine, but here my opponent voluntarily gives up the bishop on f6 early, which is probably not a great idea, not so common to give up the bishop pair like that. One of the main points of the Tory is that you play e3 and knight bd2, and it's the Nimzovich style chess where you're sort of over-controlling a certain area of the board, hoping to use that over-control as sort of a launching pad to a potential attack. So one of the best things you can do against the Tory is not to commit a d5 move, which gives away the e5 square and thus helps them to sort of launch that attack we talk about. A flexible center and the ability to challenge the dark squares goes a long way in the Tory. But my opponent just gives up the bishop so early and then takes here, which really just left me with a fantastic position, an absolutely dominant center and the bishop pair. So where did I go wrong here? Moving so quickly, I don't even remember. I played this move queen over to h6 here, which is okay, I think. Maybe not the best move. I'm trying to prime my pieces for a potential attack, and now perhaps I just get a little overzealous with this move, bishop h3. The most accurate thing to do might just be a move like bishop to e6 and then put the rooks in the center and feel pretty good about your position. But my opponent, despite the rough and weird opening, started to play very well at this point, actually. Not totally sure where the concrete improvement was for me here. Maybe queen h5 is a little better than queen f6, I'm not sure. Because here he even could have maybe taken the d5 pawn and won the pawn. So perhaps in this position here is already a critical moment for me, considering that I started to misplay the position. Of course I could take, and if he takes, then play a move like queen h5, and I've maintained the bishop pair in a pretty good center, but as minor pieces come off the board, the more I'm going to feel the weaknesses of this pawn, these pawns here. These are hanging pawns, which means they're sort of isolated together, and no pawns on these other files to support them. And so as the minor pieces come off the board, the fact that they constrict the center and give me a little bit of a space advantage will seem less important on the position, and what will be more important is that they're sort of targets. So that's kind of what happened here. He took and played knight to b3, and even though he could have taken the pawn, I still ended up in some sort of weird position where he wins this pawn and then forks me. Now, I think I have a lot of compensation here, and I did for a while, pretty much until I blundered the piece later, given that I have the bishop pair. But I would say that the main thing was lack of execution there in the middle game, and being aware that the hanging pawns, if I didn't find something to use to get more out of my space advantage there, were really going to come back to bite me. So let's leave it at that. I know you guys are used to bullet brawl action where the games come nonstop, but again, we're trying something a little bit different today where we take on all players, just kidding. And we just open the door and we play everybody who challenges, and we maybe review a little bit and provide a little bit of instruction, and then we brawl it up after that. Okay, and here we go with round 2. G3, not B3. B3 was the one of the subjects of this last month's Masters Bulletin, the January Master Bulletin, by Mr. Grandmaster Moskalenko, covering the Bent Larsen system, which has seen a burst of popularity. Hikaru Nakamura played it actually at the London Classic, so if you don't subscribe to the Masters Bulletin, I strongly suggest that you do. We'll put a link right here so you can go check it out. I could have just taken that knight in one move, but instead I played h5, so this is maybe not going to be the most instructive bullet brawl game here, this next one, but we're still going to play and have fun. And we'll talk a little bit about what he did. Okay, not really too much going on here. Well, sometimes when we open the door and allow any challengers, come one, come all, we're going to get some games like that. But to touch quickly on what I was saying, the B3 system is, of course, well known from Bent Larsen, and is a system that is sort of similar to the Tory in the last opening we just had, that it specifically, if you let it, will have a development scheme that controls and over-controls a lot of the dark squares in the center. Again, to over-control a certain area of the board is usually like a launching pad to other types of plans in the middle game. And, of course, that doesn't always happen. But, again, Nakamura played B3 in the London Classic and has seen some different people playing it over the last year or so. And, like I said, Moskalenko reviews it in our Masters Bulletin in January, so you should definitely check that out. But here my opponent plays G3, and we get a traditional King's Indian attack. This is all fine and dandy. Here, just a symmetrical position, but my opponent puts the knight on D2 rather than what I did, which, again, is fine, but really just focused on playing very quickly, I think. Not really thinking about the type of structure we're getting into, where black is all of a sudden almost feels like he's playing white. I've launched my kingside expansion even before him, and then he just starts blundering pieces, and I probably could have just taken the knight immediately after knight g4, but I didn't, and we'll go ahead and just play another one. Okay, here we have Medico della Pesta. That sounds like something I would sprinkle on my penny noodles, right? Like maybe pesto. All right, I'm going to go ahead and play the Larsen system so that you guys have another chance to see it, and maybe you will check out Moskalenko's work on the Masters Bulletin, again, providing a link for you right here. So this isn't really the traditional way to play this position. It is bullet and blitz, and I'm sort of just developing randomly. E5 is actually a good move there. He should thematically play E5, and we'll talk a little bit about why that is a good idea for him after the game, after this particular game. But he thinks he's winning a piece and simply miscalculates that I have more than sufficient protection, and he resigns very quickly. Okay, well, that wasn't good. Well, this particular system to play D4 is really not great against a dark squared fianchetto setup. In fact, as soon as my opponent played this way with G6, probably it's in my best interest to play knight f3 and then c4, and in many cases transpose to what would be considered more of a traditional ready type of game, even though we started with this b3 Larsen. The reason is that these types of systems where I'm trying to go for an attack on the dark squares, which is hopefully going to lead to a kingside attack, etc., tend to be a lot more effective when your opponent is playing moves like d5 and e6, moves that maybe give up control over the dark squares. Plus, as it's known, the fianchetto structure tends to be very difficult to attack and assault other than a Yugoslav attack form. So what I'm saying is these sound like little sort of abstract opinions, but they're actually opinions that would definitely affect the way a strong player would approach this. not necessarily playing for these whole f4 ideas and overly aggressive plan toward the king side, because black's king side is very, very solid here. And the way he's developed, he has plenty of chances to strike back in the dark squares, which might actually make me regret having pushed this f4 pawn. It's a very common positional theme to, just like you attack the Dutch with an assault on the light squares, a very common positional theme is to attack this f4 pawn with a breakthrough on the dark square. So you can make note of that bullet point here. So playing d4 sort of to slow down e5 doesn't really help me. And in fact, in this position, black should just play e5. And the main point is that after takes, and takes, black plays knight to g4, and not only is he winning back this pawn, but my e3 pawn's a target, and probably black will be better in this middle game for a long time. So if he had played this way, I would have had to find a way to take once and then maybe done something different. I don't know, the position would have got kind of funky and weird, but e5 is the very common and thematic positional breakthrough against this whole dark square assault, so we can learn something from our opponent, except that he played this way and gave up the bishop, which this is okay, but here, of course, instead of e4, if he had taken d4 and taken here, he would have won a pawn. Maybe I go win it back, and I don't know. This is a little bit of a mess. My king is open for sure, but I also have the bishop pair. It's hard to evaluate this, but certainly e4 was just a bad move and a blunder of a pawn. So let's go ahead and play another one, see if we can get some even tougher games here on today's Bullet Brawl, where we take on come one, come all, right? All right, and the last comer here is VMay1072. I feel like I recognize that name, maybe potentially from a big show. The show we do over there on Chess TV. There you go, there's a link right there. And here we have a Scotch game and bishop to c5. Classical, I play this sort of modern knight to b3 idea that all the cool kids are playing these days. And we shall see. I'll go ahead and play a non's h4 that he played in the game, and then castle and see what happens here. This line should get kind of fun and funky, especially in bullet. Oh wait, I had this move knight to d5 last move, and my opponent can almost resign, picking up material and with it destroying my opponent's king side. So that's no fun. We'll back up and talk a little bit about the theory of this line again, keeping this thing as educational as possible, and making sure that everyone feels like they have a good reason to follow me on Twitter. Because when we announce we're doing these Bullet Brawls, you can come and challenge me and join the show. So maybe have a chance to play in a game yourself. And let's make sure I don't blunder away this game with some sort of weird back rank tactic. Okay, right now I'm going to advance and maybe try to get... What's he threatening? Threatening nothing. Maybe try to get take on f7. Though I did just give up the bishop, I'm aware of that. I thought that I might have some way to win my piece back. I guess I do. I guess I do indeed have a way to win my piece back. And with it, I probably am still winning, though that's far from the best technique for me. Far from the best technique by me, for sure. All right, well, maybe now he'll get himself checkmated, if we're lucky. Put his king in the middle of the board. And, okay, we'll play a little tickle, too. If he wants some tickle, we'll tickle. We'll tickle. We'll give check. And we'll win on time. All right, well, that's bullet for you. I guess I would definitely be interested to hear your feedback, all you YouTubers out there. Leave a comment here in the comment section and be nice, okay? When I ask for a comment, I'm not asking you, for your opinion on, what makes the other person who just commented a racist, okay? I'm asking for your opinion on the format of the Bullet Brawls. Do you prefer the wham, bam, slam, best of 3, best of 5, me against another titled player, taking each other out big time with less education? Or despite the quality of these games being a little bit lower, do you prefer sometimes maybe a few more games where we might go over the games quickly and try to learn a couple things? I played d4 first, but this is a Scotch. And this is all fine and dandy. There is no bishop takes f2 trick followed by knight to g4, because I can just take it. But if he had played d6 here, threatening that, maybe I have to be a little bit careful. But okay, so he did, and I played queen e2. This is normal. And after h6, the most typical way to play the position is actually bishop e3. And after takes, queen takes. If d5, I can castle long. So sort of meet one pin with another pin. And positions are a little bit of a mess. I think that Carlsen played this knight to b3 line a couple of years ago. And since that, it's seen a little bit of a resurgence. I don't believe that h4 is really all that it's cracked up to be. These moves are all probably fine for my opponent, but now the move queen e7 is really just a blunder. I could have won on the spot with knight to d5. So what he needs to do is try to prepare a little bit more to take the piece or roll the dice and take it now. If takes and knight h7, I'm not sure I have anything immediate. In fact, he's threatening to take on g5 with check, which makes me think that I probably waited just one move too long. What I mean by that is d6 threatens this move bishop g4. And before that, if he had taken and I take, when he moves his knight, I think something like this. I can play f4, and I'm threatening queen h5. You know, even g6 might be met by g4, and then queen h2. So I think white's attacking chances are much more concrete if I'm sacrificing the piece and maintaining quick access over to the h-file. But after this move d6, now I probably need to back up this bishop to either f4 or e3 or even d2. And I'm not worried about bishop g4 because I can just play f3, so that's not really a problem. So likely at this point I had sort of pushed the limit as far as what I should be doing. Even a move like king to b1, hoping for takes, and the knight moves, and then something like queen h5 is probably not great because I think he can throw in this little intermezzo bishop to g4. Although maybe not. Maybe I can... So maybe king to b1 is a way to maintain a little bit of flexibility in the attack. Although knight g4 is sort of interesting. Knight g4 here, he has like knight f2, and maybe I'm just getting crushed. So yeah, I get my instinct says that after d6 it was time to back up the bishop and play normal opposite side castling chess. So after f3 and my opponent didn't take, it just gets horrible for him after knight to d5, and the game was pretty much over. Can't miss threats like that. So, well, okay. I hope you enjoyed this bullet brawl session here on YouTube, and I hope you check out the Masters Bulletin as we talked about the Bent Larsen system. And I hope you have a wonderful day.